She pressed the empty envelope into my 7 months pregnant belly and smiled. Good daughters-in-law don't expect gifts, be grateful you get to carry the Grant name. I smiled back, tucking the $2 lottery ticket deeper into my maternity dress pocket, and started counting down. That night, the winning numbers flashed across my screen, and I knew that humiliating baby shower would be the last time I'd ever bow my head to Evelyn Grant. $47 million tends to change the power dynamic in a family, especially when your mother-in-law doesn't know you have it. My name is Rachel Monroe, and I learned that dignity has a price tag at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon in April. The Maple Courtyard restaurant sparkled with pastel balloons and ribbon-wrapped chairs, every detail curated by my mother-in-law Evelyn to showcase her impeccable taste. I stood at the entrance, 7 months pregnant, holding a small gift box for her because even at my own baby shower, protocol demanded I bring something for the hostess. Rachel, finally. Evelyn's voice cut through the garden party chatter. She wore cream linen that probably cost more than my monthly data analyst salary at Northbridge Analytics. We were beginning to wonder if you'd forgotten how to be punctual. Daniel, my husband, gave me that familiar apologetic half-smile from beside his mother, the one that said he heard the barb but wouldn't address it. Not here. Not ever. Really. Traffic on Route 22, I said, though we both knew I'd arrived exactly on time. The next hour unfolded like a carefully orchestrated humiliation. Evelyn interrupted my thank you speech to announce new Grant family guidelines she'd typed up and laminated. She read them aloud to 43 guests, including mandates about submitting monthly expense reports and transferring our joint banking to an account she could monitor for the baby's security. Investment protection, she called it, patting my stomach like I was livestock she'd purchased. After all, we can't have another situation like Daniel's father God, rest his soul, letting emotions override financial sense. My best friend Harper Lane sat rigid in her chair, her lawyer instincts probably screaming at every illegal suggestion Evelyn made. But this wasn't a courtroom. This was a baby shower in Brookridge, Pennsylvania, where old money whispered louder than law degrees. The gifts came next. Evelyn made sure I opened hers last, in front of everyone. The envelope was thick, expensive stationery with the Grant family crest embossed in gold. The room held its breath as I opened it. Empty. The real gift is in the trust fund, Evelyn announced, her smile sharp as winter. Which I'll manage, naturally. We can't have new mothers making impulsive decisions. Hormones, you understand. Someone laughed nervously. Daniel studied his champagne glass. Besides, Evelyn continued, loud enough for the entire garden to hear, you should be grateful just to carry the Grant name. That's worth more than any check I could write. The silence that followed felt like drowning in slow motion. 43 pairs of eyes watched me swallow this public degradation with a smile frozen on my face. My hands shook as I folded the empty envelope. Thank you, Evelyn. How thoughtful. Harper stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the stone patio. Rachel, you look pale. Let's get you some air. She pulled me toward the parking lot, but not before pressing something into my palm, a gas station power pick lottery ticket. Bought it on the way here, she whispered fiercely. If the universe won't give you justice, maybe probability will. The drive home blurred through tears I wouldn't let fall. Daniel followed separately, having stayed to help his mother accept congratulations for her generous wisdom. I sat alone in our living room, local news droning in the background, turning the lottery ticket over in my fingers. At 8:15 p.m., the anchor's voice shifted to that false excitement they use for lottery announcements. Tonight's Power Pick jackpot has reached $47 million, and we have a single winner sold right here in Brookridge. The numbers appeared on screen. I looked at my ticket, looked back at the screen. My heart stopped, restarted, then hammered so hard I thought it might wake the baby. Every single number. I sat in that silence for 17 minutes before Daniel's key turned in the lock. He entered with leftover cake and excuses about his mother meaning well, not noticing how my entire world had shifted axis. I smiled, nodded, let him talk himself to sleep. But I stayed awake, staring at that ticket, feeling something cold and patient settle in my chest where humiliation used to live. Evelyn Grant thought she'd broken me with an empty envelope. Tomorrow, I'd begin showing her what empty really meant. The next morning, I called Harper from the Northbridge Analytics parking lot at 7:30 a.m. before anyone else arrived. My voice stayed steady as I said the words, "I won." Silence. Then, the power pick Rachel. "Are you 47 million? I checked 18 times. Don't move. Don't tell anyone. I'm canceling everything today." I heard her already typing. "We need to move fast and smart. Meet me at my office in an hour. Park in the back." Harper's law firm occupied a converted Victorian on Elm Street. She locked the door behind me, pulled the blinds, and opened a fresh legal pad. At the top, she wrote "Clean Plan" and underlined it twice. First rule Daniel doesn't know. Not yet. Pennsylvania law makes lottery winnings marital property, but we can structure this to protect you and the baby. She pulled up state statutes on her laptop. We're setting up a revocable trust immediately. The Brookridge Sunrise Trust. You'll be the sole trustee initially. Is that legal, keeping it from him? You're not divorcing him. You're protecting assets from your mother-in-law who's already demonstrated financial coercion. That laminated list of demands, that's evidence. Harper's fingers flew across the keyboard. We'll also need a tax attorney. I know someone in Philadelphia who specializes in sudden wealth protection. Over the next 3 weeks, I became an actress worthy of an Oscar. Every morning, I kissed Daniel goodbye and drove to Northbridge Analytics. Every evening, I came home and listened to Evelyn's daily phone calls about her revolutionary financial plans for our family. I agreed to everything, documented everything, and said nothing about the growing fortress of LLCs Harper was building around my windfall. The trust came first, claiming the prize money anonymously. Then came the shell companies Sunrise Nest LLC for real estate holdings, Junebug Holdings LLC for investments, Maple and Pine Studio LLC for charitable giving, each one perfectly legal, perfectly opaque. Your mother-in-law's been busy too, Harper informed me during a strategy session in week 2. She's been calling Daniel's HR department, trying to get his paychecks redirected to an account she controls. She's citing that ridiculous family guideline document. Let her, I said, surprising myself with my calm. I want documentation of every overstep. The hardest part was the pretending. When Evelyn demanded I sign her household budget agreement that allocated 50% of my salary to a grandchild fund she alone controlled, I signed it with a smile. The account she'd access would never see my lottery winnings, just my regular Northbridge paycheck, which had become inconsequential pocket change. Daniel noticed my compliance and mistook it for defeat. "I'm glad you're being reasonable about Mom's suggestions," he said one night, rubbing my feet as we watched TV. "She really does mean well. She just wants security for the baby." "Of course," I agreed, screenshotting another text from Evelyn about how pregnancy brain made women financially incompetent and sending it to Harper's evidence folder. The new will was harder to hide. Harper drew it up with surgical precision. The baby would inherit everything through the trust, with Daniel as conditional guardian only if he met specific requirements about financial independence from his mother. I signed it at Harper's office while Daniel thought I was at a prenatal appointment. "You're playing a long game," Harper observed, watching me initial each page. "Most people would have already exploded." "Explosions are messy," I replied, thinking of Evelyn's latest Facebook post about raising her son to marry despite the odds and teaching him to manage challenging investments. She meant me. Everyone knew she meant me. I prefer controlled demolition. By the end of week 3, the foundation was set. 15 million in liquid assets, safely tucked in trust accounts. Another 15 million in reserved installments to minimize tax burden. The rest earmarked for strategic purchases that Evelyn would never see coming. I kept going to work, kept smiling at dinner, kept agreeing to every degrading rule Evelyn invented. But at night, after Daniel fell asleep, I would touch my belly and whisper to our daughter, "Your grandmother thinks she's teaching me about power, but she's about to learn the difference between having control and thinking you do." The lottery ticket itself sat in Harper's office safe, a $35 piece of paper that had reversed every power dynamic in my life. Evelyn Grant thought she owned us with her empty envelope and conditional love. She had no idea she was already living in a house of cards I hadn't even started blowing on yet. The first crack in Evelyn Grant's facade appeared courtesy of my neighbor, Finn Cooper. He knocked on my door on a Tuesday morning when Daniel had already left for work, holding a fresh coffee and wearing his trademark concerned expression. "Rachel, this is awkward, but I handle tax properties for the county," he said, glancing around nervously. "Your mother-in-law's Hawthorne Street house, the big colonial she's always bragging about. There's a preliminary lien notice. She's 8 months behind on property taxes." I invited him in, my mind already calculating. How much does she owe? 38,000 and change? If she doesn't pay by June, it goes to sheriff's sale. Finn shifted uncomfortably. The thing is, she just filed papers for another charity fundraiser with the Grant Social Circle Foundation. That organization hasn't filed proper returns in 3 years. The Grant Social Circle, Evelyn's supposed charitable foundation that she mentioned at every social gathering. I poured Finn tea while my phone recorded our conversation, perfectly legal in Pennsylvania with one-party consent. "She's been taking loans against the charity's name," Finn continued. "Bridge loans, they call them. Payday lending for people who wear pearls. The Hawthorne house is her only real asset, and she's bleeding it dry maintaining appearances." "That evening," Evelyn called during dinner, her voice dripping false concern through the speaker. "Rachel, dear, I noticed you haven't transferred February's contribution to the grandchild fund. Need I remind you about our agreement?" "Of course, Evelyn. I'll handle it tomorrow." I met Daniel's eyes across the table. He looked away first. "See that you do? Oh, and Daniel, sweetheart, I need you to co-sign something for the foundation. Just a formality for our spring gala venue." "Sure, Mom." After she hung up, I studied my husband, 34 years old, successful at work, yet still jumping at his mother's commands like a trained seal. "What kind of formality?" I asked. "Does it matter?" He stabbed at his pasta. "It's easier to just sign, even if it's another loan she can't pay." His fork clattered against the plate. "Don't start, Rachel. She's managing fine." "With whose money? Our family's finances aren't your concern." "Our family, or her family." I touched my belly. "Because this child I'm carrying is our family. Daniel, your mother treating me like an incubator with a checkbook isn't family." He stood abruptly. "Mom warned me you'd get difficult as the pregnancy progressed. Hormones and insecurity." He grabbed his keys. "I'm going to help her with the gala planning." The door slammed. I sat alone, recording everything in my phone's notes. Harper would want dates and times. An hour later, Evelyn texted the family group chat, so blessed to have raised a son who prioritizes family obligations, unlike some who marry into privilege and complain about contributing. Olivia Park from work screenshotted it and sent it to me privately. "Your MIL is psychotic. Document everything." I already was. Every text, every demand, every public humiliation went into a folder Harper labeled Exhibit A through Z and beyond. The next morning, I asked Finn for a favor. If someone wanted to buy a tax lien certificate on the Hawthorne property, hypothetically, how would that work? His eyes widened with understanding. Hypothetically, anyone can buy the lien at public auction. The owner has a redemption period to pay back the buyer with interest. If they don't, he spread his hands. The lien holder can foreclose. And if the buyer wanted to remain anonymous, LLCs are beautiful things, Rachel, completely legal, completely opaque. That afternoon, while Daniel attended another foundation meeting at his mother's, I sat with Harper in her office, reviewing Evelyn's financial house of cards, credit reports, tax records. Social media posts about lavish galas that barely broke even all painting a picture of desperate wealth performance. She's been cycling through balance transfers for 2 years, Harper noted. Living off credit to maintain the Grant legacy facade, the only reason she wants control of your finances is to fund her lifestyle. She won't get them, I said quietly. But she might get something else she's not expecting. Harper raised an eyebrow. You're planning something specific. I'm planning justice, I corrected, pulling up the Maple Courtyard's ownership records on my phone. Did you know the restaurant where she humiliated me is for sale? The owner needs capital fast. Sunrise Nest LLC might be interested in acquiring certain assets. Harper leaned back, a slow smile spreading across her face. You're not just going to defeat her. You're going to dismantle her entire kingdom. Legally, I emphasized. Every move above board, every document filed properly. The same rules she claims to value while she drowns in debt and lies. That night, Daniel came home at 11:45 p.m., smelling like his mother's signature perfume and defensive anger. Mom says you're being hormonal and vindictive. She's only trying to help. I looked at him, really looked at him. Your mother is broke, Daniel. The Hawthorne house is in pre-foreclosure. The foundation is a shell. She needs our money to survive, not to help us. That's ridiculous. You don't understand how family wealth works. I pulled up the tax lien notice on my phone, showing him the screen. His face went white, then red. This is fake. You're trying to turn me against her. I'm trying to protect us, our actual family, but you'd rather protect her ego than our future. He slept on the couch that night. I lay in our bed, hand on my belly, feeling the baby kick. Your daddy will come around, I whispered, or he won't. Either way, we're going to be fine. The scaffolding of Evelyn's control was clear now: emotional manipulation, financial desperation, and a son too broken to see the chains. But every empire built on sand eventually meets the tide, and I was about to become the ocean. The beauty of money is its silence. Over the next 3 weeks, Sunrise Nest LLC quietly acquired 3 strategic pieces of Evelyn Grant's world, and she never heard a whisper. First came the tax lien certificate on the Hawthorne house. Finn facilitated the purchase through proper channels $38,000 that bought me the right to foreclose if Evelyn didn't pay within the redemption period. The irony wasn't lost on me. I now legally owned her debt on the very house where she hosted her superiority complex. The county sends her a notice, but it only lists the LLC. Finn explained over coffee at my kitchen table. She'll assume it's some investment firm. They usually are. The second acquisition took more finesse. The Maple Courtyard's owner, James Rutherford, was hemorrhaging money from a failed restaurant venture in Philadelphia. Harper arranged the meeting at her office, presenting me simply as an investment partner. I need $400,000 within 2 weeks or I lose everything, James admitted. Exhaustion carved into his face. The Brookridge location is profitable, but it's not enough to cover the city disaster. Sunrise Nest LLC will purchase controlling interest, I offered. You keep 20% and continue managing operations, but we add specific venue rental restrictions: no service to clients with outstanding tax liens exceeding $30,000, and the right to refuse service to anyone demonstrating harassment toward other patrons or staff. Oddly specific, but deal. He signed without hesitation. Desperate people rarely ask questions. The third purchase was pure psychological warfare: 2 duplex properties on Riverside Drive, just 3 blocks from the elementary school. Perfect rental properties for young families, the kind Evelyn always claimed the Grant family supported through thoughtful investment, except she'd never invested in anything but her own image. Daniel remained oblivious, lost in his mother's manufactured crisis of the week. She'd convinced him that mysterious financial predators were circling the family assets, never realizing she was describing herself. We need to be more careful with our spending, he announced one morning, reading from his phone clearly a text from Evelyn. Mom says there are vultures who prey on established families. Of course, I agreed. Signing papers for $1 million life insurance policy with the trust as beneficiary. We should definitely protect what's ours. Harper helped me set up additional security measures. Cameras in our home's common areas completely legal since I lived there. Banking alerts on all accounts Daniel and I shared. A post-nuptial agreement drafted but not yet presented, waiting for the right moment. "You're building a fortress," Harper observed, reviewing the insurance documents. Legal, financial, and personal protection. "I'm building a future where my daughter never has to smile while someone humiliates her," I corrected. The invitation came through the family group chat on a Thursday evening. "Darling family, let's celebrate the upcoming arrival with a proper sip-and-see party after the baby's born. Same venue as the shower I've already reserved, the Maple Courtyard for June 15th. It'll be the perfect Grant family introduction for our newest member." I smiled at my phone, then typed, "That sounds wonderful. Evelyn, should we make it extra special? Maybe announce something important about the baby's future. Yes, we'll announce the Grant Family Trust I'm establishing." "Such a good idea, Rachel. Sometimes you surprise me." Daniel read over my shoulder. "See, she's trying to include you. She's trying to control our child before she's even born." "Why do you have to make everything a battle?" I turned to face him fully, my 7.5 months pregnant belly between us like a barrier. "I'm not making it a battle, Daniel. I'm refusing to surrender. There's a difference." He stormed out again, his solution to every uncomfortable truth. But this time, I didn't cry. I called Harper instead. "Move up the timeline on the Riverside properties," I instructed. "I want tenant applications ready to review, young families only, below market rent for the right people." "You're planning something for the sip and see." "I'm planning to show Evelyn what actual family support looks like. Not empty envelopes and public humiliation, but real investment in people's futures." That night, I couldn't sleep. The baby performed gymnastics while I reviewed every document, every LLC filing, every piece of the foundation I'd built. Tomorrow, I'd meet with Harper's tax attorney to structure the trust's charitable giving arm. Next week, final insurance documentation. Everything moving toward June 15th, like dominoes lined up in perfect formation. At 3:20 a.m., Daniel crept into the bedroom, sliding under the covers without a word. In the darkness, he reached for my hand. "I know Mom can be difficult," he whispered. I said nothing. "But she's the only parent I have left. When Dad died, she saved me. I owe her everything." "You don't owe her me," I whispered back. "And you don't owe her our daughter." His hand tightened on mine, then let go. "The baby will change everything. Mom will soften when she holds her grandchild." I stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of the secrets I carried heavier than the baby, heavier than the lies. "Daniel, what if she doesn't? What if she gets worse?" "She won't. But what if she won't? Rachel, trust me." Trust. Such a simple word for such a complicated betrayal. I closed my eyes, knowing that in my office safe sat proof of 47 million reasons why Evelyn Grant would never control our lives again. "Okay," I lied. "I trust you." The baby kicked hard, right under my ribs, as if she knew exactly what was coming, as if she understood that sometimes, to protect what you love, you have to destroy what threatens it. June 15th couldn't come fast enough. The conversation that would define our marriage happened at 2:15 a.m. on a Wednesday, 3 weeks before the sip and see. Daniel found me in the nursery, organizing tiny clothes by size, unable to sleep from the baby's constant movement. "We need to talk," I said without looking up. "Really talk, not just exchange Evelyn's talking points." He sat in the rocking chair we'd assembled together back when we still felt like a team. "Is this about Mom again?" "It's about us, about what kind of parents we're going to be." I held up a onesie that said, "Grandma's Little Angel," another gift from Evelyn with strings attached. "Your mother sent me a draft of her new will yesterday. She's leaving everything to our daughter, but only if we agree to her having final say in all major parenting decisions. School, medical care, religious upbringing all requiring her approval. She's just being thorough. She's being controlling, Daniel, and you're enabling it. His jaw tightened. That's unfair. Is it name one time you've disagreed with her? One time you've chosen my side over hers? Silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, he said, when we got married, she didn't want me to marry you. And you've been making me pay for that choice ever since. I pulled out my phone, showing him the folder of screenshots, text messages where Evelyn called me a gold digger, financial demands, the empty envelope photos from the baby shower, her Facebook posts painting me as an ungrateful interloper. This is what you've been collecting evidence against my mother. This is what I've been surviving, Daniel, while you pretend not to see it. He scrolled through the messages, his face cycling through denial, anger, and something that might have been shame. Some of these, I didn't know she said these things. Yes, you did. You were there for half of them. You just chose not to hear. What do you want from me? Rachel. She's my mother. I want you to be a husband and father first. I want boundaries. I pulled out the document Harper had prepared, couples counseling, separate bank accounts that Evelyn can't access, and a clear agreement that she has no legal say in our parenting decisions. He stared at the papers like they were divorce documents. You've been planning this. I've been protecting us. There's a difference. And if I don't sign, I placed my hand on my belly, feeling our daughter respond to my touch. Then we'll have a different conversation, one involving lawyers and custody agreements with very specific clauses about financial manipulation and emotional abuse. You're threatening me. I'm showing you the same choices you've been giving me: comply or suffer, except I'm offering you a third option: partnership. Real partnership, where we face your mother together instead of you throwing me to her wolves. Daniel stood abruptly, pacing to the window. She'll never forgive me. For what? Being an adult, having a family that isn't centered around her needs. You don't understand. When Dad died, she saved me from drowning. I was 15, angry, completely lost. She pulled me through, and she's been collecting on that debt ever since. I joined him at the window, looking out at our quiet street. Daniel, good mothers don't keep scorecards. They don't make their love conditional on obedience. She loves me. She loves controlling you. There's a difference. He turned to me then, and for the first time in months, I saw my husband not Evelyn's son, but the man I'd married, exhausted, conflicted, but present. The counseling, he said slowly. Would it be just us? Not Mom? Just us. Working on us. And the bank accounts. Ours, not hers. She can manage her own failing finances without bleeding us dry. He winced. You know about the house. I know about everything, Daniel. The tax liens, the fake foundation, the credit card shuffle. Your mother is broke and using emotional manipulation to make us her personal ATM. How long have you known? Long enough to protect us from the fallout. He sank back into the rocking chair, suddenly looking older than 34. She's going to implode when she finds out. Probably. The sip and see she's planning this whole presentation about the family trust she's creating. I know. Do you know it doesn't exist? The trust she's been lying about having money set aside. I kept my face neutral despite my surprise at his admission. I suspected. God, Rachel. He buried his face in his hands. How did it get this bad? Slowly, then all at once. I knelt beside the chair, taking his hands. But we can fix this, together, if you're willing to try. He studied our intertwined fingers, then looked at the papers still lying on the changing table. The counselor, can we choose someone Mom doesn't know? Someone outside her social circle. Harper has a recommendation in Philadelphia, specializes in enmeshed family dynamics. Enmeshed? He laughed bitterly. That's a nice clinical term for completely fucked up. It's a starting point. At 3:45 a.m., Daniel signed the papers. Not the post-nuptial agreement that would come later if needed, but the counseling agreement and banking separation documents. Small steps, but steps forward. The sip and see, he said as we finally headed to bed. Mom's going to make it a spectacle. Let her, I said, thinking of the documentation Harper was preparing. The ownership documents for the Maple Courtyard, the trust papers with my name alone. Sometimes the best way to deal with a spectacle is to give people a bigger show. You're planning something. I'm planning to protect our daughter, whatever that takes. He nodded slowly, and for the first time in months, when he said, "I love you," I almost believed he meant it more than he feared his mother. Almost. The stage was set with surgical precision. 2 days before the sip and see, Harper and I met at the Maple Courtyard at 6 a.m., before the restaurant opened. James Rutherford, still grateful for the salvation of his business, gave us complete access. The projector's installed, he confirmed, pointing to the discreet unit mounted among the garden lights. Your tech person tested it yesterday. Crystal clear image on the white wall of the pergola. And the sound system, integrated with our existing setup, whatever video you're planning will be heard perfectly. Harper pulled out her checklist. Mobile notary. Confirmed for 3 p.m. The Maple Courtyard's legal representative. My manager, Teresa, has full authority to enforce our venue policies. She'll be present throughout. Security. 2 discreet professionals in civilian clothes. They'll look like guests, but they're licensed and bonded. I studied the garden space where Evelyn had humiliated me 3 months ago. The same stone patio, the same flowering vines. But now every inch belonged to an LLC I controlled. What about recording equipment? Pennsylvania's one-party consent state, Harper reminded me. But we're posting notice at all entrances that the event is being recorded for family memories, completely legal and transparent. The real preparation happened in Harper's office that afternoon. Finn arrived with a thick folder of documents, every tax record, lien notice, and financial filing related to Evelyn Grant and her Phantom Foundation. It's worse than we thought, he said, spreading papers across Harper's conference table. She took out a second mortgage on the Hawthorne house 6 months ago. Forged Daniel's signature as cosigner. That's fraud, Harper said immediately. That's desperation, I corrected, photographing each document. Add it to the presentation. The video compilation took 12 hours to perfect. Harper's assistant, skilled in multimedia, wove together screenshots of Evelyn's texts, Facebook posts, and recorded phone calls where she'd berated me for everything from my maiden name career to my inferior breeding. The crescendo was the baby shower footage a guest had filmed Evelyn's empty envelope presentation, complete with her declaration that I should be grateful just for the Grant name. This is devastating, Harper said, watching the final cut. But is it too much? She publicly humiliated me while I was 7 months pregnant. She's trying to steal our child's financial future. She forged her son's signature. I paused the video on a screenshot of Evelyn's text calling me a temporary inconvenience in the Grant legacy. This isn't too much. It's evidence. The invitation updates went out that evening through the family group chat. Evelyn had already invited 48 people, her entire social circle, plus some strategic additions she wanted to impress. I added just one line to her invitation. Special announcement regarding baby Grant's financial future documentation will be provided. Perfect. Evelyn responded immediately. I'll prepare copies of the Grant family trust papers. Daniel saw the exchange over dinner. The trust papers she's preparing are fake. You know, she showed me drafts. It's all smoke and mirrors she's hoping someone will offer to contribute at the party to make it real. I know, I said calmly, serving him pasta. You're very calm about this. Should I be hysterical? That's what she expects hormonal Rachel making a scene. Instead, she'll get something else. What? The truth. He set down his fork. Wait, Rachel, what are you planning? I'm planning to protect our daughter from a grandmother who sees her as a financial asset and emotional leverage. Everything else is just details. The morning of the sip and see, our daughter was 5 weeks old and perfect. I dressed her in a simple white dress, not the elaborate Grant family christening gown Evelyn had sent over with instructions for professional photos. Daniel noticed, "Mom will be upset about the dress." "Your mom will be upset about a lot of things today." He studied me as I packed the diaper bag with unusual additions sealed envelopes, a folder marked legal documents, and my laptop. "Should I be worried?" "You should be present. That's all I need from you today. Just be present and really see what happens." Harper texted at noon. "Everything's in place. Notary's here. Security in position. James has the lien notice ready." I replied, "Thank you for everything. Give her hell, Rachel, legally and gloriously." At 1:45 p.m., we loaded our daughter into her car seat. Daniel's hands shook slightly as he buckled her in. Whatever happens today, we protect her," I finished. "That's all that matters." The drive to the Maple Courtyard took 12 minutes. I counted each one, feeling the weight of 3 months of planning, $47 million of power, and 5 weeks of motherhood crystallizing into this moment. "There are so many cars," Daniel observed, pulling into the parking lot. "Mom really invited everyone." "Good," I said, lifting our daughter from her car seat. "The more witnesses, the better." As we walked toward the garden entrance, I saw the small sign Harper had posted. "This event is being recorded for family memories and documentation." Daniel saw it too. Documentation. "Just family memories," I said, kissing our daughter's head. "The kind that last forever." The garden doors opened, and Evelyn's voice carried across the space. "There they are, the guests of honor come. Everyone wants to see the future of the Grant legacy." I smiled, adjusted my daughter in my arms, and walked into the arena where Evelyn Grant's empire would fall. She just didn't know it yet. The countdown to 3 p.m. had begun. The garden erupted in coordinated chaos at exactly 3 p.m. Evelyn stood at the pergola's center, holding court in cream silk, her voice carrying over the assembled crowd. "Before we announce the Grant Family Trust, I want to thank everyone for supporting our family's newest investment." She gestured toward my daughter in my arms. "The next generation of Grant excellence." "Actually," I said, stepping forward with a smile that had taken 3 months to perfect, "I have an announcement first." Evelyn's eyes flashed. "Rachel, dear, we discussed the order." "No, Evelyn, you dictated the order. There's a difference." I nodded to Harper, who stood by the projection system. "I'd like to introduce everyone to Miss Harper Lane, attorney at law and official representative of the Brookridge Sunrise Trust." The projector hummed to life. The first slide appeared on the pergola's white wall, "The Brookridge Sunrise Trust Securing Baby Grant's Actual Future." "What is this?" Evelyn's voice pitched higher. "This," I said, as the notary stepped forward with official documents, "is the legally established trust that holds all assets belonging to myself and my daughter. $47 million in assets, to be exact." The garden went silent. Someone dropped a champagne glass. The next slide showed the trust structure. "I am the sole trustee. My daughter is the sole beneficiary. No member of the Grant family, including Daniel unless he meets specific conditions, has any access or control." "This is ridiculous," Evelyn sputtered. "Daniel, tell your wife. There's more." I continued. The screen changed to a familiar image, the empty envelope from my baby shower. 3 months ago, at my baby shower in this very garden, I was given this empty envelope and told to be grateful for the Grant name. That same night, I won the Pennsylvania Power Pick lottery. $47 million. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Evelyn's face drained of color. "But let's discuss what the Grant name really means," I said, as Harper clicked to the next slide screenshots of Evelyn's texts calling me a gold digger, an investment risk, inferior breeding. "These are the messages I've received from my mother-in-law. This is the Grant family values in action." "You can't. This is private." Nothing about my humiliation was private. I cut her off. You made sure of that. The video compilation began playing. Evelyn's voice filled the garden from the speakers, berating me, demanding control of my finances, discussing her plans to manage her grandchild's future. The baby shower footage played last Evelyn's public declaration that I should be grateful, the empty envelope, the laughter of complicit guests. Now, I said, as the video ended, let's discuss what Evelyn Grant actually has to offer my daughter. Finn stepped forward with his folder. The next slide showed the tax lien on the Hawthorne house. Mrs. Grant owes $38,000 in back taxes. The lien was purchased by Sunrise Nest LLC. I paused for effect. Which I own. That's illegal. That's business, I corrected. Your business model. Actually leverage and control. Except I have the leverage now. The slides continued. The second mortgage with Daniel's forged signature. The empty Grant Social Circle Foundation. The credit card debt. Each revelation landed like a physical blow to Evelyn's carefully constructed image. She's lying. Evelyn turned to the crowd. This is all manipulation. This is all documented, Harper interjected, holding up official papers. Tax records, court filings, bank statements. Would you like to see the notarized copies? Teresa, the restaurant manager, stepped forward. Mrs. Grant, I need to inform you that the Maple Courtyard is now under new ownership. Sunrise Nest LLC has controlling interest, and our venue policy prohibits service to individuals with outstanding tax liens over $30,000. This is my granddaughter's party. This is my daughter's party, I corrected, at my venue, and you're no longer welcome. The silence that followed felt infinite. Then Daniel stepped forward, and everyone held their breath. Mom, he said quietly. Is it true, the forged signature? Evelyn's mask finally cracked completely. I did it for us, for the family. You weren't strong enough to make the hard decisions. You committed fraud, Daniel said, his voice hollow. Using my name. He turned to me, then to the notary. Where do I sign, Daniel? No. Evelyn lunged forward, but security stepped smoothly between them. You're my son. My only... I'm a father, Daniel said, signing the post-nuptial agreement Harper had ready. And a husband. And I'm done being your collateral damage. The papers signed, witnessed, and notarized. I pulled out the final document, a cashier's check for $38,000. This clears your tax debt, I told Evelyn, not because I owe you anything, but because my daughter deserves a grandmother who isn't in prison for fraud. Consider it severance pay. You're fired from running our lives. Evelyn stood frozen, surrounded by her social circle, her empire in ruins at her feet. You planned this, all of it. I protected my family, I said, adjusting my daughter in my arms, using your own playbook money, control, and public perception. Except I had something you didn't. What? Actual resources, and a mother's love that doesn't come with strings attached. Security escorted Evelyn to the parking lot. Half the guests followed, scandalized. The other half stayed, approaching me with mixtures of admiration and shock. That was... Daniel started, then stopped. That was exactly what she deserved. That was exactly what we needed, I corrected. Freedom. Our daughter stirred in my arms, opening her eyes Daniel's eyes, but free of his learned fear. I kissed her forehead, then looked at my husband. We have a choice now. We can build something real, or we can repeat the patterns. What do you want? He looked at the garden where his mother had just lost everything, then at his daughter, then at me. I want to go to counseling. I want to learn how to be a father without being controlled. I want... He paused, vulnerable for the first time in years. I want to earn the right to be part of what you built. It's not about earning, I said. It's about choosing. Every day. Choosing us over the dysfunction. Harper approached with the final documents. The trust is fully executed. The venue ownership is transferred. The tax lien is cleared with the check. Legally, you're completely protected. I looked around the garden, the sight of my humiliation transformed into my liberation. Good. Let's go home. As we left, I heard someone whisper, "She destroyed Evelyn Grant." No, I thought, settling my daughter into her car seat. I just showed everyone who Evelyn Grant always was, and made sure she could never hurt us again. The $47 million hadn't bought revenge. It had bought freedom, and that was worth every penny. The aftermath was swift and surgical. Within an hour of leaving the Maple courtyard, Evelyn's lawyer called Harper to negotiate. Within 3 hours, the social media explosion began, half of Brookridge condemning my cruelty, the other half applauding my courage. Within 24 hours, Evelyn Grant vacated the Hawthorne house and moved to her sister's cottage in Delaware. She never contacted us again. The notarized post-nuptial agreement lay on our kitchen table like a map to a new country. Daniel signed every copy, initial every clause, his hand steady for the first time in years. "The counseling starts Thursday," he said, putting down the pen. "Dr. Martinez in Philadelphia, twice a week to start." "That's ambitious." "That's necessary." He looked at our daughter sleeping in her bouncer. "I don't want her growing up thinking love comes with invoices." Over the next week, the trust's infrastructure solidified. The Riverside Drive duplexes were rented to 2 young families at below-market rates, real family support, not Evelyn's performed charity. The Maple courtyard thrived under its new policies, becoming a sanctuary for events free from toxic dynamics. Harper managed the legal framework with elegant efficiency. "The Forbes article wants a comment," she told me one morning, showing me her phone. "Local woman wins lottery, buys justice." No comment. The video from the party speaks for itself. And it did. Someone, probably one of Evelyn's former friends, had posted the entire confrontation online. 3 million views in 5 days. The comments ranged from "Queen Energy" to "This is what happens when you push a mother too far." Daniel found the viral video harder to process. "Everyone knows now. Everyone knows what she did to us, what I let her do. Everyone knows you chose your family when it mattered," I corrected. "That's what counts." Therapy transformed him slowly, like watching ice melt in spring. Week by week, he identified the patterns, the manipulation, the trained responses. Dr. Martinez called it emotional enmeshment with financial abuse characteristics. Daniel called it 40 years of bullshit. "I signed every paper she put in front of me," he told me after one session. "Never questioned anything. She trained me that questions meant betrayal. And now I question everything, including why you stayed with me through this." I thought about it, watching our daughter grasp his finger with perfect trust. "Because somewhere under your mother's programming was the man I married. I just had to buy us enough safety to find him again." The trust fund grew through careful investment. Every dollar protected by legal structures Evelyn could never have penetrated. Our daughter would have choices, real choices, not the illusion of freedom within someone else's cage. 3 months after the sip and see, a package arrived with no return address. Inside was the Grant family christening gown and a note in Evelyn's handwriting. "For when you realize blood matters more than money." I donated the gown to a vintage shop and used the proceeds to buy books for the pediatric ward at Brookridge General. Blood might matter, but toxic blood was still poison, no matter how well it dressed. Daniel and I renewed our vows on our daughter's first birthday. Not a big ceremony, just Harper, Finn, Olivia from work, and the 2 families renting the duplexes. Daniel wrote his own vows this time, not his mother's words. "I promise to see you, not the version someone else wants you to be. I promise to choose us, every day, over comfort and old patterns. I promise to teach our daughter that love multiplies, never divides." The lottery ticket, now framed in Harper's office safe, bore a small plaque. "Sometimes justice costs $2 and a friend who believes in possibility." Standing in our backyard, watching our daughter take her first wobbling steps between Daniel and me, I thought about Evelyn's empty envelope, how she'd meant it as a symbol of my worthlessness. how it had become the opposite, a reminder that empty gestures from empty people create space for something real to grow. Mama. Our daughter squealed, stumbling into my arms. That's right, baby girl, I whispered, kissing her head. Mama's here, and nobody will ever make you feel worthless for their own gain. Daniel wrapped his arms around both of us, steady and present, and his own person for the first time in his life. We did it, he said. We're free. No, I corrected, thinking of the $47 million that had bought us this freedom, the legal fortresses that protected it, and the simple gas station lottery ticket that started it all. We're just beginning. The last time anyone saw Evelyn Grant in Brookridge was at the grocery store, buying generic brands with coupons. She walked past me without acknowledgement, her empire reduced to a careful budget and Delaware residence. I felt nothing, not satisfaction, not pity, just the clean emptiness where toxic obligation used to live. That evening, as I tucked our daughter into her crib, she grabbed my finger and held tight pure trust. No conditions. I thought about the trust fund waiting for her, the opportunities it would provide, the freedom from anyone's financial manipulation. Your grandmother gave me an empty envelope once, I whispered to her sleeping form. But it turned out to be the most valuable gift she ever gave us, because sometimes, baby girl, you need to be shown what empty looks like to recognize what full means. Daniel appeared in the doorway, home from therapy, eyes clear. Ready for dinner? Ready for everything, I said, taking his hand. We walked downstairs together, past the spot where I'd first shown him the lottery ticket, past the kitchen where we'd fought about his mother, past the living room where we'd signed the papers that set us free. Every step was a choice, every day a decision to be better than what tried to break us. The $47 million sat safely in trust, growing quietly, protecting fiercely. But the real fortune was simpler, a family that chose each other. No strings attached, no empty envelopes, no price tags on love. Evelyn Grant had been right about one thing. I should have been grateful for the Grant name. After all, it was worth exactly $47 million. I just made sure it paid out to the right people. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from. Drop a comment and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts below. What would you have done with that lottery ticket? How would you have handled Evelyn? Your stories and perspectives mean everything to me. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to let toxic people hold power over your life.